fucking ends.
Nope.
Okay. Just because I couldn't be asked waiting for these things. Hi, welcome. It's Sunday morning, and we're making fucking rock and roll talk. God damn it. And a huge thanks to Angel Spit's Patreon, who are fucking helping me make this mayhem happen. And if you want the best experience of your life, go onto Twitch. Because Facebook sucks. It's a hard-hurting thing when you have to say that Jeff Bezos is better. Hurts my brain. Hit me up with those questions. Go.
Go.
May I start?
Please.
So, hi Adam.
Welcome, Adam.
So, on average, how long does it take every single of you to complete a project?
A
When
song?
it's a really good one, a song project or any other project. How long does it take you on average?
Adam, go first.
I just poured my coffee, Carl. Now, Julius, that's going to be one of those things that I can only say depends. In my case, 20-something years, because I had to learn how to do it all.
20-something years.
Julius,
Yeah.
It takes me 40 to 80 hours. And that's getting less. I actually log my hours per song, so I can give you a breakdown of composition time, synthesizer programming time, lyrics, recording the vocals, mixing and production. The ball, sorry to cut you off there, Adam. The ball of my time is actually base level composition to make sure the song doesn't suck. Adam, I just broke one of my big laws, which is don't fucking interrupt. I apologize. I'm going to throw the rule back to yours.
That's okay. I needed to sip my coffee, babe.
How'd you cover?
Yeah, I'm going to say Carl's take is probably pretty accurate in that it takes a few weeks or a couple of weeks of pretty much full-time work to work on a project. So it does depend on how much time you can actually put into it to get it done. In my case, I tend to do it in really obsessive bursts. So some of the projects, it's like actually completing the project might go quickly, but as I say, some of the, like when it comes to the Skeleton Closet, the songwriting, right? Like some of those songs have been bouncing around in my head for decades. And when I say it took me a long time to make it, it's because I had to learn how to do the production. I had to learn how to music. I was a drummer. And so I was basically starting from melodies that I had in my head and words, poetry that I didn't, how do I say this? Like, working with other musicians was a frustrating process for me because they, being songwriters, wanted to do their songs and just pick my ideas for ideas. And so for me, it was one of those very private, long-term life goal, reason to live kind of projects, right? Is that I have these songs in my head that I need to get out. So the real answer, when you're talking about the amount of time that it takes to work on a project, the time that you put into the project plus the time that it took to learn how to do the project.
One of the things that's helpful for me, it sounds strange and took a long time to learn, was I make appointments with myself. So yes, there's all this nitpicky stuff of life that has to go on. But if I make an appointment with myself to sit down and do the project, I don't want to cancel on myself. So I actually, in my planner, in my phone, wherever it is, I make appointments with myself to work on whatever I need to work on.
Okay. Yes, that gives me something to think about, because I was wondering about this specific question because I've had a very good idea. I think it is a very good idea in early January, and I'm about to finish the mix now. That's almost that's 2 to 3 months later, and I just feel that it's incredibly slow compared to others.
Well, don't compare yourself to somebody like Carl, who is incredibly adept.
Yeah.
You know, Carl has put, you know, this is one of those things you got to think about, all the hours of practice and practice. Carl does nothing but, you know, I'm pretty sure you're an everyday practice of some, you're working on, I know you're working on your business every single day, but like if you're comparing yourself to somebody like Carl, who has been doing this professionally for many albums, many albums, I don't think that's a fair comparison to make. Every writer, every performer, every artist works at their own pace, and like what it requires to get there is a different demand on every artist.
3 months. Wow, that's really fucking fast. You have to give me some tips. How do you get Here is a song that you can't see. I have a book full of ideas, and when they get actually onto the computer, I cross them out. This song has been here for 2 years, and it's a great song, and I intend it's going to happen. I've got a song in here. Yeah, Adam, you know how this is. And Randall, I know you do too. I have another song here that has been here for 6 months. And it's, oh my God, there's so much more to do on that one. I don't know if you're familiar with the Miss Ballistic project, which I'm really proud of. That was 4 to 6 years in the making.
Wow.
4 to 6 years. And by this time, like, one really interesting thing, and if anybody wants to interrupt, just put your hand up because I'm going to try not to rant. Firstly, mother-in-law stayed last night, which is always fantastic. She makes really strong coffee. That's why I'm off my fucking head right now. Secondly, Shaya is always a bit kind of like whenever visitors are over, so she's a little upset. That's why I'm sort of here. The really cool thing about the Patreon is it is forcing me to regulate the songwriting process. There are sometimes I will release a track, and from the initial spark of the idea through to the actual putting it on the Patreon, it's a month. Rarely. Usually it's 2 or 3 months. Often it's 6 months. And then I sit on those tracks for 12 months because I have to get them out of my head, go back to them on a clean slate, go back, reproduce them for the album. Because the way I'm sorry, I've just got my eye on Shaya. The way I used to do stuff is, like Adam said, it was sporadic, and it was this madly making music, now not making music. And like what Diana said is, I have to book myself. That's why I get up at 4:30 every morning, because from 4:30 to 8 a.m., I'm working on music, maybe 3 days a week. And I will get so much done in that time because it's the only time I can just sit down and focus. Then chaos ensues. She's fine. So how long is a piece of string? I don't know if you have that saying in Germany. That's an Australian saying. How long is a piece of string? It means it's going to take as long as it takes. Don't rush it. That's. And like I said, the longest thing for me is the lyric writing process and the fucking actual fundamental composition. Like, is there a bass line that is strong? Is there this? And I will get 2/3 of the way through it, and I will go, that bass line sucks. The fundamental part of this song is crap. And then I have to fucking go back there and do root canal therapy on the song. I changed the kick drum pattern at the last minute on more songs than I can pick. But once it's done, it's fucking done. And that's something that you know, that's why I think it's important to pay stupid amounts of money on someone who's going to master it, because bitch, you ain't going back now. Once you've mastered it, it's done. It's done. Because that's a trap that a lot of synthesizer artists, electronic artists, and rock and roll artists fall into, which is, oh, I want to go back to that song I wrote 30 years ago or 10 years ago or 10 months ago. And yes, I do that with the Patreon, but it's forcing me to release something every year, 18 months, year. Adam, and then I'm going to mute myself because I want to hear from Randall and Alex as well. The floor is open. Alex, I saw your hand. I saw Adam's hand. Whoever wants to go, go.
Well, I'll jump in then. So when you mentioned the getting up at 4:30 kind of thing, there was I can't remember who it was, but one of the famous mathematicians would do that. That was his work time, was 4:30 to 8:30 in the morning, because that was like when everybody else was asleep and he could get shit done and think. The other thing I was going to say is about finishing projects, right? A story I heard many years ago was about a first grade teacher, and she was she had an art class, right? And the level of work that her students at that age were putting out was notably better than their peers. And somebody asked her, well, what is it that you have taught these kids that makes them better artists? And she says, oh, no. I just take it away from them so that they don't overdo it. Moving
Excellent. I want to throw it to Alex. Thank you, Adam. That was brilliant.
My problem is that the projects tend to expand with the time that I have for them. So that's because that's why I can't finish anything that's a solo project. I can only finish if it's either on a deadline or if it involves other people, because then I have to do it. And yeah, that's a really big problem for me.
Well, actually, Randall, I haven't seen your hand up yet, so if you there it is, go.
Oh no, yeah. Okay, finishing things. My problem. I suck at lyrics. So I've got 2 songs right now that are done and have been done, aside from final lyrics, for like 6 months, and they're just sitting there. And I go back to them and I listen to them, and it's time to write lyrics. And then you go, I don't like those guitar effects, so I'm going to re-record those guitars. And then you do that, and it's like, well, now that bass doesn't work. So you end up rebuilding the thing. The thing is, back to the just finishing thing. I wanted to be a comic book artist back in the day. Jack Kirby. I don't know if anybody's familiar with comic artists, but Jack Kirby, the king, he was at one point doing 4 or 5 30-page comics a month. And people ask him how he did such great work so fast and was so prolific. And he said, finished is better than perfect. Like, you just have to stop and move on, which I haven't been able to do yet. And like, that's my issue. What to do about that, I have no idea.
Okay. That's actually brilliant. Julius, I think I saw your hand up again.
Yeah, yes, I think I just wanted to say, I think it's important to learn how to abandon your work, and at what point you do that. Adam.
I call that putting it on the back burner. I use that phrase a lot when we're talking production and MTV TV stuff with Diana. I say we're going to put that on the back burner for a couple of months because we need to get to this other shit first. When it comes to the lyric writing, Randall, I'm sorry, I hate to tell you this, but like on my album, there's a song that I wrote the bridge and choruses for with a band that we never really did it in like 91 or 2. And I never had verses for it until I finished a song that I was working on And then the robots that I was using to make the music told me that they needed me to do this other song. And so I started writing the bridges and the choruses, and then I started writing some music to kind of fill in some verses. And then next thing I knew, another poem that I had written a few months previously dropped into the verses in a way that I was just like, really? And so I was able to finish a song after all those years, 30 years, whatever.
If somebody else put their hand up, please interrupt me. Tanner, if you're watching on one of the other things, jump back in. I lost you. I was about to let you in and I lost you. Can I, this is now turning into therapy. Do we really want to talk about lyrics?
No.
God, that coffee is strong. So when I write lyrics,
I think lyrics is a great topic, actually.
Great.
I could run down this one. For a
Can
while,
I?
you guys.
Thanks. Okay. When you guys get in these ruts, and when you get in these problematic, what do you call it when your tire skids? I don't know. Fucking, I don't know what you call it. The first thing you do is go, oh, insert artist name here. They don't have that problem. Because all I see on my fucking bullshit device is them in grandeur and them just flying through life like nothing's mattering. I'll bet you a fucking gift card on Reverb that I know that artist and I've had a deep and meaningful with that artist, and well, actually some of those I recant my bet. And I will fucking tell you that they are having the same bloody problem. And every time someone goes, oh, Carl, you just make all this shit, it's like, fucking talk to my wife. Like, she knows when I'm writing lyrics because I'm watching horror movies. I hate horror. It scares the shit out of me, but I need something to get out of my head. I'm curled up in a ball crying. And I'm going, oh, I hate doing this. I'm rocking backwards and forward, going, I hate writing lyrics. I don't know what to write. All my lyrics suck. I hate myself. I hate my life. Everything I do is shit. You know the things you go through as an artist, that dumb shit, that. And until I just go, until I just fucking sit down, grab my book, look at what's written on the front. Humorous, sarcastic, cynical, and intelligent. I probably spelt something there wrong. I don't fucking care. But that's a reminder that every time I write bloody lyrics, that's what they have to be. I have text pads on my phone, my iPad, blah, blah, blah. I have more stuff jotted down than I can think out, and I will go, okay, this song is about how I feel about. Insert a topic. Give me a topic. Randall, what's a song you're having trouble with? Quickly, 10 words or less, go.
That's
That's one word.
my big issue. I don't know.
That's 10 words. You're done. Sorry, chum.
I know.
Okay, that's my big issue. Or if anybody else wants in 10 words or less, I'm counting them, go. That's right. That's my big issue. Let's talk about that, my big issue, because that's actually a really good hook. That's my big issue. That would look fucking great on a t-shirt. Seriously, it would. That's a really strong hook. That's my big issue. 4 words on a t-shirt, on a track list. Think about it. That's a great fucking track. Anyway, so let's talk about that's my big issue. Firstly, let's talk about how you see yourself. Verse 1, how do you see your big issue? Second one is how you, as the songwriter, perceives other people's big issue, that you don't have that big issue. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da, because, chorus, that's my big issue. Third verse is we're going to talk about the actualities about what's going on with that other person, and we're going to figure out that all of us have that thing in common, which is, chorus, that's my big issue. Or you could even make that last chorus, that's our big issue. Did you write that down? Great. That took me 38 seconds. Look, he's just come up with a fucking t-shirt. I'd wear that t-shirt. And see, this is what's interesting, and you are welcome to use these chats to go, oh, look, I'm kicking around these lyrics and they suck. Or jump on the Discord, Angel Spitz Discord, or any Discord at all, kick this shit around. That's my big issue. Fucking great track, man. Great track. I love it. So somebody, Diana, somebody asked me a question, or maybe I should just get the fuck off. And
Well,
then what
no.
you do? So go ahead.
To supplement what you said, it's something I learned from writing essays a long time ago, which kind of goes into some songwriting that I've noticed, which is tell them you're gonna tell them. What is that?
Yeah.
I'm remixing t-shirt ideas
That's
over
great.
here on
That's
a
great.
napkin. This
Okay.
is how I do my creation is I sketch on a napkin with a Sharpie.
That's excellent. Diana, I want to go back to you. This is really important.
It's kind of going back to writing essays, which I've noticed in songwriting is tell them you're gonna tell them, then tell them you told them.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that makes sense, but
And that is exactly applies to fucking choruses. For example, the soon-to-be song and hit-winning T-shirt, That's My Big Issue. And I'm not taking the piss and I'm not being facetious here. That's a good song. That's a fucking good song. Well done, Randall. Well done. That's not Tanner. Okay.
Oh, thanks.
No, it is. That, you know, that song, the core thing is, that's my big issue. So it might start with, that's my big issue. Line number one. Some people you say is you say something, you say something about that something, you say something again, then you say something else about that something. There's a whole bunch of different 4-line things to your chorus. Hold on, I'm getting to you, Adam. But you might start with, that's my big issue. No one understands something. Go grab a tissue. Fuck you. Actually, no, even better. That's my big issue. Hey, bud, fuck you. Go grab a tissue. That's my big issue. But you might want to work on that a bit. But I'll get to you, Adam. But what you might also do is then you might interject another concept or idea into that, and you might start weaving other bits and pieces into it. Because remember, you've got like roughly 8 lines per verse, where you might go into some really thing where society told you that you're a piece of shit because it does, or social media or the algorithm or whatever. And whatever that bitch point is, you keep jumping on that. I'm now throwing over to Adam, who we call the hand.
And the big issue. I'm
the
Carl's
hat.
big issue. What I was thinking is to expand on Carl's idea. Ask a question in the verse and then answer the question in the chorus. What's my big issue? What makes me need a tissue? This is my issue, bitches. This is my issue. And you get down to the chorus and you say, that's my big issue. My problem is you.
Yeah. May I? When I was in uni, one of the lecturers said that if you insert an imaginary because just before the verse, just before the chorus hits in, this sucks, and this sucks, and I'm dealing with all this crap because that's my big issue. And yeah. Yeah. So you need to ask the baldy and ask the hat. Alex, go. You're the hat, Adam.
Do you have something that keeps you from thinking too much about your writing while you're doing a vomit draft? Like, I have the problem that I overthink what I'm writing at the moment, and so I stop writing and the whole flow is gone.
We were listening to your question. Thanks, Adam. Always uses the hat to upstage. That's absolutely true, and that's absolutely a problem. But remember, the whole point of a vomit draft is to just go bleh. And if you're overthinking, write that down. I'm overthinking this. I'm overthinking this is also a really good name. That's a good chorus too. Adam, can you mock me up a t-shirt? Go. I'm overthinking this is a bloody good chorus as well. Because I'm overthinking this. And you could talk about your art. Verse 1, how I feel about my art. Verse 2, how I feel about my my house situation. Part 3, how I think about the world. Because I'm overthinking this. And, you know, the closing outro could be, actually, I'm not, you're fucked. Because that's my big issue. So, yeah, you don't worry about overthinking shit. Like, just don't. What are the authors that we get authors on here sometimes? The authors don't turn up because authors can't do anything before 10 o'clock in the morning. Seriously. They talk about something paralysis. There it is, overthinking it. What do they call it? Something or other paralysis? Too many options paralysis.
Choice paralysis.
What do they call it?
Choice paralysis.
Yeah, but they have a snappy name because they're authors.
Isn't it?
Yeah, no. They have a cool name. They have a cool word for it that we as musicians obviously can't think of that because we have to sum the world up in 3 minutes and they have their novella to sum it all up. And they can character develop. What do they call it?
You had it right, Carl. It is called choice paralysis.
No, it's something else. Decision it rhymes. Paralysis. It sounds cool. No, it sounds cooler than that. Go back to your hacks, Adam.
Paralysis.
That's it. Analysis paralysis.
There you go.
I knew there was an anus in there. There was anal in there. Analysis paralysis.
That's why you like it.
Yes. Wow, that is strong coffee. Julius, I saw your hand up. It might have been just Carl, shut up, but go.
I would never say that.
That's your problem. You should. Everyone else does.
I will. Okay. I happened to write my very first lyrics for a song for this recent project I'm doing, and I'm an author as well. And I thought you know that, Carl. Anyway, and I had a completely different approach on writing these lyrics. I knew what I wanted to say, what message I wanted to transport. And I tried to put the lyrics into a story, kinda, and try to transport a lot of impressions to the listener. I do not know yet if it works. I like how it turned out, but you will hear it, hopefully. Yeah.
Adam, go.
Oh, okay. So I did a like I'm not really intending to plug this, but I will real quick. DJ Moose in Montreal. I just did a podcast with him a couple of weeks ago, and the subject that we decided to do was songs I wish I had written. And one of the things that I kept saying about these songs that I wish I had written was, first of all, they're all tenors, and I wish I was a tenor. Second of all, a lot of these opening lines open like the reading of a great novel. Like the first line sets such a tone for the rest of the lyrics that come.
May I? That's such a good thing. The greatest opening line of a song I have ever heard was by Tex Perkins and the Dead Sea. Wasn't it? He's friends with Nick Cave, and the song is called "You Better Get a Lawyer," and the opening line is, "With bloodshot eyes and bleeding hands, I put my best suit in the cleaner again. Horse runs second, just like I knew it would. Overflowing ashtrays, oh yeah. You better get a lawyer, son. You better get a real good one. You better get a lawyer, son, to get you out of this one." So from that opening line, which is a whole bunch of nothing, you can tell that a guy had one hell of a weekend, probably woke up in a gutter, deranged and messed up, with a big smile on his face, and he needs a lawyer. And that is like, I once heard somebody say, if you set every song in a place and a crime has just happened, and that crime may have been a breakup, that crime may have been you throwing a glass at a wall because you can't figure your song out. But if you set the scene and it's dark, then You just let it happen, and you're always coming back to this thing. And another thing is when I'm writing lyrics, and if anybody has something, just fucking interrupt me. Don't put your hand up, damn it. Whenever I'm writing lyrics, and you know how often there's a line that line's crap. That line is crap. I will put something else in that line like spice. That's not actually moving towards the whatever the song's about, but it's moving towards the atmosphere of what's going on. And then there's the whole argument that people don't listen to lyrics, but no, man, they do. They really do. If you are painting something with your words, they hear it. It comes through. The floor is somebody else's now.
Lyrics are what people sing along to, man.
Yeah.
Like, more often than not, when somebody's whistling along, they're not whistling the guitar solo. You know what I'm saying? Setting the tone, as you said, like it's a dark and stormy night. Yeah, setting the tone on your lyrics, right?
Yeah.
The thing I wanted to talk about that you mentioned there is placeholders, because I do that a lot, where I'll take a line, and what I'll do is I'll just put little brackets around a blank space and say there's supposed to be a line here, and I just don't know what that line is yet, so I'll write past it so that I can keep holding on to the tail of that poetry monster in my head. Before it goes away. I don't want to get stuck on a line that I'm not sure what it should be, or I'm not happy with it yet, or whatever. You know, the other thing is talking about creative approaches to lyric writing. You know, sometimes you gotta shake your shit up a little bit. Like one of the things David Bowie used to do he would cut out interesting little phrases that he would find in newspapers or stories. When I was talking about the song, the 30-year-old song that I had bridge and chorus for, like I was watching a movie and there was a scene in the movie that just inspired me to write. You know, I literally snagged my opening line of the song from a quote in the show where the guy or the girl says to the guy, they're like she's about to get on a train and like leave his life kind of thing, and she's like, so this is it.
And that's a good song too, Adam. Great track.
Thank you. And my next line was said our goodbyes and done all the crying that we can, and from there it just like the verses just ran right out because they knew what they needed to say. It was the poem, I should say. And that became the verse to the song, because it fit the emotional content of the other pieces that I had written previously. So when I was writing the Skeleton Closet too, this is another thing, is that I have like, as Carl does with his notebook, I do it all on napkins and the backs of envelopes and the backs of flyers and whatever junk I have to hand. And I know Carl's like, your organization sucks, Adam. Yes, it does, but it's my
so
process,
is Diana.
Yeah, that's why I have Diana doing information management for all that shit, because like I'm terrible at it. It's not even so much that I'm bad at it, it's just that I'm better at it this way. And so I have like boxes at my mom's place that literally say words on flyers. And so when I went to write the record, I went to my mom's place. I was house sitting for her and taking care of the cat for a few, and so I went through all my boxes and I pulled out all these pieces and fragments of stuff and lyrics that I forgot. I went, oh yeah, that was pretty good. And I was like, you know what? This actually goes with this song. This part here is, and this belongs to this. And oh, if I take this line out of this, I can fill in that other line from that other thing. And I hate this whole poem except for one line. And I like everything about this other poem except for the line that's missing. And look at that, it's in this poem. So sometimes you just have to rearrange your shit, like chop it up like David Bowie and Magnetic Poetry, the bitch.
Adam, I'm sorry, Alex, take it.
Do any of you use special software besides maybe Word or just the text editor or pen and paper? Or
yeah, pen, paper. Can I and rhymingdictionary.rhymezone.com and a thesaurus. Can I just really jump back to Adam for a minute? Thanks, Adam. I want to jump, and welcome, Brett. We're talking about lyrics. Adam if you do that, and then I want to jump into something else. If that's how you write lyrics, when you do a Kickstarter, you need to send people that raw. Here is the back of an envelope that I type these lyrics on. Like, this is the genesis of the song, because that is I have a book in there that I wrote Blood, Death, Ivory on. It's a little moleskin, and it's full of the ideas that are Blood, Death, Ivory. And one day I'm going to meet someone who I'm going to trust enough to give it to you. That's none of you people, because I hate you people. I'm kidding. I'm not giving it away because it's full of all this dumb, personal, stupid poetry and shit. But there's other bits and pieces where, but anyway, Adam, you know what I'm saying? Give that shit away. Like that's, people love that stuff. And Brett's just left in disgust. Another thing is if you're change the way you write. I'm not going to walk away and do it, because as soon as I walk away, Brett and bloody Mr. Hat are going to jump in and start prattling. There it is. There's his book. What you want to do is get butcher paper, 2 foot across butcher paper, and you can get it anywhere, and it's so cheap. Write it on that. And Adam, you might end up getting your ideas and sticking them on that. And when I have a song that is just not working, I will get my pen. And it's interesting, Adam pulled out the fine point Sharpie because there's something magic about them. And I will sit down with like 3 foot by 3 foot of butcher paper, and I will just write all over it. And just that change in process helps as well. I'm going to just get back to Alex's. I had another question, but Alex asked the question about, does anybody use special software?
No special software. Usually I design a beat first, and it usually kind of imparts an idea to me of sorts.
Well, but we're actually talking about how you write your lyrics. Do you use Word, or do you use a text pad, or do you?
I actually type them on, for the most part these days, I actually type them in Google Drive. I create a document that way. And that's because I got tired of losing them. But the book I showed you was where I used to do that very much. And I get that out drawing and such now. Also digitally, but yeah.
Cool. And welcome, Claire. I'm just making sure you can see us and we can see you and you can hear us okay. I think, are you calling from Australia?
Hey.
How are you?
I'm good. I had some technical difficulties. I couldn't get into Zoom for quite some time. So
that's all right. Well, I think I've got the time wrong. Is it 5 there or 3 there?
So at the moment it's 5:45.
Where are you?
In Melbourne.
All right, cool. Yeah. Melbourne. Well, welcome. And if I put the times down, I apologize. I thought I got them right.
No, that's okay. Like I said, I tried to come in at 3 a.m. and then when I tried to log in, it said it would start at 5. So
all right, cool.
Come back. Yeah.
And I'll also tell you, I'm obligated under my citizenship as an Australian to take the piss out of New Zealanders at some point, and I know you are too. So when that happens, I'll call out to you and we'll go on like a 30-second rampage. Happens every Zoom meeting. Did anybody else?
Might as well get it out of the way.
No. We'll pick our moment. Does anybody else have an answer to Alex's question about software?
I mean, I will say that the probably the only digital thing that I use in my lyric writing process is the little voice recorder on my phone, which replaced the little micro cassette recorder. And mostly that's because I write a lot when I'm driving or when I'm falling asleep, because I'm in a similar state in both times.
Yeah, actually, can I
trance
just jump on this and stop me if you've heard this one before? My very bad Morrissey there. What you're saying is actually...
I've heard a different version of that song, Carl.
It wasn't as good as mine. Was it Kurt Cobain who wrote the first idea when he woke up in the morning, just after I Need Coffee and Who Are You? He wrote the first idea that came into his head and then the last idea before he went to sleep. And that's always really good, stuff. I have a question, unless somebody else wants to jump in. I do have a question that I want to throw out. And that is the way people actually write lyrics and write melodies. Because like some people, they will sit down at the guitar or at the keyboard and they will sing their melody. They'll come up with the melody with their vocal. As a keyboard player, one thing, a problem that I am constantly falling into is I write melodies on the keyboard. Keyboard is not voice, and voice and keyboard react to pitch, etc., differently. So that's a habit I'm trying to get out of. The second thing I hear is that whenever I hear like somebody talking about a classic song that they wrote, like Under the Milky Way Tonight, they will talk about how the melody kind of meandered and then words started falling into place, and then that happens. That has never happened with me. And I try so hard. Like, that's why I have paper and I got a keyboard. Thank you, Julius. That's why I got a keyboard that I could just sit down and go plonk, plonk, plonk on, is so I could start doing this new thing. Does anybody write in that aforementioned thing? So if you do write in that aforementioned style, how the fuck do you do it?
Yeah, that's
Do you mean the meandering melody style?
Yes, plans within plans. I see House Atreides. Sorry. Yeah, the meandering lyrics. And thank you for getting that, by the way, Brett. No one else got that. Yeah, the meandering vocal style. No, Paul Atreides.
I mean, I can talk a little bit about it, except that what happens with me is that it all happens in my mind, and I get the melodies, and I can almost make out the words, and I have to figure out what the words are that are in the melody, because I will hear all the syllables and I will be like, wait, what is that saying? It's kind of like listening. It's like listening to like the Peanuts teacher and trying to figure it out, or like Kenny from South Park, right? Like, what is it that they're saying? But the thing is, for me, is that it very rarely, I mean, like I will have it happen when I'm working on songwriting, where I'm like working on music and I make some music and then like the melodies start floating. Usually it's kind of more, it's less it happens. It happens less when I'm actually like doing the music, or like, you know, if I'm listening to somebody's melody or work on something, but it usually happens more when I'm kind of dreaming about the thing and it's just running around in my head, and I don't know if that's at all helpful, Carl, because like for me it's like the melody is there in my mind and I don't really have a choice. And I'm trying to find what words are already there. Like, it's more like trying to interpret, like my songs never really come out the way that they sound in my head. They come out the way they come out, you know, they come out. But the melodies are, that's like and so when I write my music, I'm writing my music literally around the melodies and the lyrics. And even then, I'm just listening to what I hear in my head and say, like, what does that need for a bass line? And I'm like, that's what it needs for a bass line. Then I put a beat to it. Like, actually, a lot of times it'll, like, the melodies in my mind will come because I'm a drummer first, and I have rhythm in the blood kind of thing. I'll be like, and I'll be like, and I'm like, what is the words there? I've got a new toy, and I'm happy because I've got a new toy, whatever the fuck it is.
That's excellent. And the whole reason I'm asking this question is because, John, welcome. Several of us here, I know, are very, for want of a better term, logic-based at writing songs. And when I hear some of the songs here, I go, yeah, that's really logic-based. you can tell that it's logical bricks that have been plot, 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 plot together. I'm like that. And I am trying to become less logical, more fluidic in my writing style. And it's just so hard for me to turn off the logical side, because many of the problems that have been brought here today are logic-based shortcomings, throwing it over to Brett.
Same.
Ben, Alex.
Similar thing to Adam there. I also come at it from a percussionist starting point, if you will. So almost every single time I'm starting a song, I'm starting with a beat. Something give me that seed, give me that something that is, something that's where I'm usually experimenting the most with that. How far can I push that core beat? Once I have that, it kind of becomes like a chant of sorts. That thing is happening now. Now the machine is alive. It's a baby, but it's every time I hit play, it does that. And I don't care. Maybe your car's breaking down, or one day you're zoning out and you're jamming to the turn signal. It's that kind of mindset that is happening, where it becomes interactive with the seed. And so, like the lyrics I sent you the other day, Carl. I was up to 4 a.m. last night, and I can share that with you now or everybody else if you want, but I haven't mastered it yet by any means. And nonetheless, so that entire process started that way. I started with this drum beat. It was I literally told you I had two drums. I had the K2000 pumping out a kind of distorted kit, and I had my PC4 pumping out a standard drum kit. I then got on the guitar and just started jamming to the beat. And that's where the elements of the song came out. And I scrapped probably the first 10 of those, as the idea started to flesh itself out. And once that started to flesh itself out, then I was like, okay, now I kind of like what I have here, but, obviously I can't just have a guitar and drums. I mean, you can, but it's kind of flat. So I went and I got the bass, and I started jamming to what I already had. And I just keep building up on that until I need to start stripping things away and placing things. I have enough pieces to design it out as an entire logical piece.
Cool. Thank you. Actually, I want to throw it to Alex because I saw his hand, and I think I saw Adam's hand next. Alex, go.
First, to the previous thing, I rarely write a song and have everything finished because I sing it and realize I can't put all the syllables into this space, into this bar, because I have to breathe, and I often forget that when writing. Second, I have this problem too, and I think I write the best songs if I don't think about what I write and just put it in the sequencer or just play it in. And one thing that helps me from not falling into a blocky songwriting structure is like to just beatbox it badly, and then I sort of realize, there needs a drum fill there, and maybe I can do this to make a good, to go from one section to the next without feeling too abrupt.
Yeah, Adam, that's yours. Thank you, Alex. That was great. Adam, go.
I saw you put your hand up, so I thought you wanted to.
It was after yours, but the floor's yours.
If it's relevant to what they're saying, I can wait because I'm going to bring it into the same loop.
All I wanted to say is that, like Adam, you were talking about creating stuff with your body organically, and Alex and Brett, you touched on that as well. It's something that I really try so hard to do, but I can't. I have so much trouble doing it. Like I have got a lot of randomized modules here, so I may start doing things randomly, but I can't do it. I can't implement it because I am so bound to process and logic. Unfortunately, that's my brain. Adam, that's more me whining, and I'll have cheese with that wine. Adam, it's yours.
Super glad that you said that, because that actually helps me dial in what I was just thinking, Carl. Because what I was thinking is I was like variations, right? So two things. First of all, I have the same problem in that I way overwrite my lyrics for what I can actually breathe. I was complaining about that this week a lot. Like I haven't been having the best breath week, and so it was kind of hard to sing this week. um variations. So when you're when you start off, like what Brett was saying about stripping it back. So I've said before that a lot of times when I'm working on remixes, especially, I will work on the part that I'm going to fill out the very fucking most, and I will build all those layers, and then I strip it away and I take little pieces out and I break it apart to give hints of it throughout the rest of the mix, and to use those sounds and to use those pieces throughout the rest of the mix. So then when it hits with the big thing and all the parts are there, like all of those sounds have been hinted at in pockets or throughout the piece, or I'm creating a variation of that sound where like all of a sudden like this doot doot sound becomes and so what I'm gonna say here is doing a lot of variations in timbre, using a different timbre in the same range to replace another instrument, and then pocketing them back together with each other helps a lot. When you're talking about randomization, so one of the interesting things, messing around with like arpeggiators and stuff, is sometimes it's really fun to just kind of like screw with them until you get like a thing and you're like, oh wait, that's really interesting, right? And you render it as MIDI, and then you take that little chunk out that sounded really interesting, and then you start creating variations from that. And this is, I do this all the time. This is how I end up with a lot of my music, is that I will use the automated things to kind of create a bed. So it's like if I need a synth to go do 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 do, right, I'll create an arpeggiator and I'll record it do 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 do, and then I'll render it, and then I'll take that and I'll mess around with it and I'll start pushing it around a little bit and finding the other notes in the scale that I'm working with, whatever sounds right, because I never really know what scale I'm working in. So kind of go with, oh, that sounds really cool there, and start rearranging the things and say, well, I want it to go up here and then up and then down and I try to start sculpting the shape of the overall line of the arpeggiation, if that makes sense. So starting with the random and then giving it intention, so that by the time it's done, you have something that is a play. It might be really hard for a human to play, but it's a playable piece.
Thank you, Holland. I'm just going to throw to John. I see John's hand up.
Hey, yeah. Thank you all for sharing your processes, and also like, it's like, because one of the most creative times that I have is like usually like, when I'm kind of in a zone and not really thinking about it, and then so like in the shower, like taking a run or a drive with like music off. I will also be like immensely creative when I've been have participated or watched some kind of creative event, like like especially like concerts and clubs. Like I will go away from the club and like get on my motorcycle, like, and just think about like, here's what I want to do, and like it's not so much like I can do better. It's just like, oh, they did that, well, like, this is how I can use it. And like you're taking those pieces because it was just such a visual experience that like it puts me in a creative space. With composition, I tend to start with melodies first, and or sometimes chordal structures, and then I'll build up from that. One of my personal, the two weakest things that I on my end musically, I think, are rhythm, as in coming up with interesting rhythms and percussion beats, and vocals. So I procrastinate on it, and I just like will instead focus on like coming up with some kind of musical structure. And part of my workflow is based around some of the tools that I've gotten used to, but it's like, so I use Ableton Live, and will record loops that I've performed, like they're MIDI loops that are playing into VSTs and so forth. Sometimes audio, like if I'm going from hardware, but like it's mostly MIDI loops. And then it gives me kind of like a palette to play with. And then I will, come up with the building blocks. And then I will take like the, ABAC kind of like structure to it and kind of play it live, just kind of like rough it out with those parts and record that as like a session, and then like start going through and rearranging and tweaking it. But like some of it is coming up with the building blocks, and then having the flexibility to like just kind of like rearrange them, because like it doesn't, it's like this transition doesn't work, it's like I'm going to duck this in and out. For me, that's worked well, because for years I was stuck in kind of like, here's this really good 30 seconds, like doesn't really say anything, doesn't really go anywhere. Like you listen to it and it's like, that's cool. And you're like, no, that was it. Fuck. All right. So yeah, going to that type of workflow has helped me, and just like kind of like getting over the hurdle of like, I have a structure. In software engineering, there's a concept as minimally viable product, MVP. And that's like coming up with some, not building the entire thing, but coming up with just enough that it's tangible, something that you can interact with, something you can hear or react to and say like, okay, I like this, I don't like that, this needs to change. And so part of creating is having enough blocks that you can have a reaction, sit back, say, okay, here's what needs to change, and then move it on, rather than having a 30-second riff that is neat, but
Excellent, thank you. There's little abilities to put your hand up, FYI. I've never used them, but John used them. That's such a good idea. So feel free to do that. Alex, I see you. Brett, I think I saw yours before. Are you good, or can I throw it to Alex?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Alex, the floor is yours.
Okay, I don't know if it was the question, but sometimes if my sequences or my synth patches are too stiff, I use like super slow LFOs and modulate like things really just a little bit, so that it isn't like robotically always the same. And also something that's also underestimated is like modulating the decay. That's
yes,
like, especially for FM patches, it's like it can be so groovy. Yeah, that's basically it.
Can I jump in there? Actually, the two things, if I can. Brett, are you sure you didn't want to jump in? Because it is technically...
Oh, yeah. No, I'm good.
All right, thank you. Firstly, if you want to cure writer's block in a second, well, actually in an hour, watch Jodorowsky's Dune, or Jodorowsky's Dune. Buy it. It's a documentary about the Halendo Jodorowsky, and how he wanted to make Dune, the movie Dune, Dune. It never got made, but it inspired basically the entire modern motion picture science fiction movement. And if you disagree with me, you're wrong. It will blow your mind, and it will cure you of writer's block. And also watch interviews with David Lynch. But Jodorowsky's Dune is... it's incredible. Secondly, Alex, I want to just high-five you on that. People always jump for the frequency knob, but playing with the because I just put a track on Patreon called Killed on Camera, and what I am trying to do is use one synthesizer per track. And on this one, I use the fucking sequential Rev 2, Prophet 8 Rev 2. Fucking awesome synth. I actually bought it because it's like, I can't afford to get a second Prophet 5, but I'll get this one. And the mod matrix is insane. It's such a good synth, and it kills me to say this, but it does shit the K2000 doesn't do. But anyway, and one thing I did want it is that the entire song it's on the modulation wheel, because as it increases, so does the decay on the frequency envelope. So that's letting more of the sound through. It's also driving it into distortion. It also turns up the bass. It does all this shit. Great synth. And that's currently something that I'm trying to do, because I've never written a song on just one synth before. Well, a synth and a drum machine. If I just want to flag, there's something, I know Randa wants to ask a question about oscillators, but I also want to throw out probably all of us got this email. During the week, SoundCloud has announced a new royalty program, and I want to get everybody's researched educational points of view on it. And also Bandcamp is offering streaming. So if we want to continue down composition because it's bloody awesome, we can keep doing that. Or we could throw it to Randall, who wants to ask a question about VCOs. VCOs it is, Randall. The floor is yours. Go.
Okay, or we could do both, but oscillators first.
Always.
Yeah. I mean, it's where the sound comes from. So I had an oscillator die on me, and I'm looking for a replacement, and I don't really want to get another copy of the same thing. So recommendations for not so high budget, not necessarily super low budget, but good Eurorack oscillators that maybe are interested and not just plain.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yes. My first question is, have you researched fixing it? Because sometimes the fix on an oscillator that dies can be a chip that costs $30. And then
Right.
secondly, if you can't fix it, all right. Secondly, sell it on Reverb and say that it's broken and go into detail, because there are guys on Reverb and girls on Reverb who fix this shit. Whenever I have something fucked, seriously, I'll sell it on Reverb for $40 and say it's broken. I don't know how to fix it because I'm not throwing it in the bin. So in part B to that, let's talk about oscillators. And if you say Behringer, I'm going to shoot you down in fucking flames. Go.
No, I was just gonna say I get turntables that way on Reverb. Like I buy broken old 1200s and I fix them up. But continuing on oscillators, I don't have much to say about oscillators because I do most of my shit in Reason. So
okay, oscillators, go. Alex, nerd.
I think it depends on what the sound aesthetic is that you want. I think generally the Dreadbox ones sound really fat, but sometimes you want skinny and maybe some novel overtones, then something else might be better. So it really depends. But I think there aren't like bad oscillators out there. Every one sounds different and unique.
Great.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Because I'd like to shoot my mouth off.
does that mean we're moving on to SoundCloud royalties?
No, it means we're going to talk about oscillators.
Oh, okay.
Let's do it.
Dude, I will pimp dope for. You know me. So I just got a while back an A110-2, and it's a kind of a medium-low. It's a low price oscillator. It's as solid as hell. It sounds bloody great. It stays in tune. It's beefy. It's got all the harmonics. It's pure analog, and it's great. It has a ramp or sawtooth ramp, triangle, and a square wave. And it's got exponential and linear voltage input, and it's also got frequency pulse width modulation. No one uses pulse width modulation. You should, because the shit you can do on it is great. It's so good. It's bloody great. Now, also, for about the same price, there's a company in the US, a new young company, and they build digital oscillators. I hate digital oscillators, but these ones are interesting. They're called Mazotronics or Mazotron. And they have one called the Wave Morph VC-DCO. And I would pick my laptop up and point it at it, but I'm going to get it wrong. So it's Mazotron VC-DCO, voltage controlled, digitally controlled oscillator. And it's not like a Rev 2 digitally controlled oscillator where it's a actual voltage oscillator that's got a digital clock on it. This is straight up DCO. This is digital. The great thing about digital is it's sharp and it's shiny. In the bass, it lacks a bit, but the pitch is amazing. They have another one called a square wave oscillator, and it's under $100. There's some interesting things you can do to it where you can feed. It's got an input for a and I'll get back to the voltage controlled DCO in a minute. But this cheap square one, if you go on their site, you'll see all this stuff. You can put a square wave into it to act as a really simple open closed gate for a VCA. Super fucking easy. But what you can also do is you can put a fast. I'm talking like an LFO cranked up to 500 or 1,000 or something. And I was fucking with it yesterday in the live jam. It's the best fun. So you can put a second LFO into it that's square wave, and you can modulate it. And what's really cool about it is because it's digital, digital has a nasty habit of going glitchy at certain frequencies because it's having trouble. You know, if it's clocking at 96K, when you think about it, when you start doing some hardcore frequency modulation, it's very easy to be having stuff going on at 96K. And sure, your ears can't hear it, but there are harmonics there and your harmonics can hear it. That's an argument I just don't care about. The thing is that the actual processing ability of a digital oscillator sometimes falls apart up there, so it gets all glitchy. And that can be interesting because what the VCDCO does, there are 4 points, actually 2 points, 2 angles. And you plot point number 1 from +5 to -5. Then you're followed by the angle, which is from +45 degrees to -45 degrees. Then you plot the second point. Then you plot the second angle. So it goes bump, slope, bump, slope. So you can start creating these really complicated files, really complicated wave files, because you're wave shaping kind of. I don't know what you technically call it, but it's really interesting because not only is it a case of like what Alex was saying, you might put a really slow LFO on it, so this angle is always, the first angle is always changing. So that's changing everything else down the path as well. But you might do something else where you might put different DC low frequency oscillators on all of that stuff, or you might put fast LFOs on all that stuff. And then you start getting some really interesting wave shaping going on. So that's Mazatron, a young company. Young bloke, I've spoke to him. He actually does some really interesting shit as well. He does some really cheap slew limiters, and they're passive. And I use it with the vocoder. Sorry, checking on a Shaya. And it's bloody great. So if you want to give the little bloke a go with him. If you want to go with the standard, who I will fucking pimp to the end of the earth, go with Dopefa. But then if you want to lash money out, because if you're going to spend money on something, oscillators, mate. But this gets into gear porn because fucking Hex Inverter are about to launch their oh my god, phase. What was the frontline assembly in? Phase. Come on, frontline assembly from the Blade. What was that phase? Their new oscillator, which is like $600-700, and it's just insane. Or get a secondhand audio frequency generator while you still can, because they don't make them anymore and they're the most fucking amazing oscillator on earth. But don't fuck, because it's solid and it's bloody good and you can get it anywhere. And not Behringer, because fuck them. Yeah, thanks, Brent. Does anybody else want to shoot their mouth off? Adam!
I actually have a question about using the synth wall that you have there, and that's about getting consistency in your sound. Like if you create a sound in that whole thing, I mean, I would assume the only way to recreate that sound would be to take a Polaroid.
That doesn't even work.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of what I'm saying is I know that some of it can really ride on a hair.
Oh, yeah.
So basically, when you're using these things, I mean, you got to be like riding the record button every time you hit something interesting, or what? How are you
I'll get back to
managing
that in a second. I just want to throw, that's a really good question. And there's a couple of people who'll have something good to say that. Alex, you had your hand up before we go down this collective rabbit hole. Please, what were you going to say?
I think it depends on what you value in an oscillator, and also if you want many different kinds of oscillator in one module, the mutable instruments plates, I don't know, plates is also a choice that many people really like. It costs like a bit more, but it can't much.
I actually looked at that one.
And okay, and Adam, I do want to come back to you. Randall, just quickly, what other oscillators do you have? Like, are you looking for a meat and potato oscillator, or are you looking for granular?
Well, what I have right now, I've got everything I have right now that's functional is dope for stuff. I've got like the Dark Energy 2 with its thing, and I've got the A110-1. And that's all my functional like sound generating oscillators I have right now. I had an anti-module Little Monster VCO, which is really cool, and that's the one I've got the issues with. I don't know what's wrong with it, but it went wonky on me. It's not doing its job right.
Okay, go ahead.
But I really liked the Little Monster thing because it has it's not, I don't know how to explain it, but it doesn't quite sound right. It almost, even when it was working perfectly, it almost sounded broken. Like it's the same kind of thing like what happens with the Doepfer's Wasp filter, where you get it to a certain point and it starts to break up. That oscillator did that, and it was really cool for like adding textures and stuff. So that was kind of a cool thing. Maybe something with a little more, like, I guess I want something with more character than just the Doepfer oscillators, because they're so smooth, they're so consistent.
Yeah.
Something for the texture and the weirdness, and
all right,
brokenness, I guess.
In that case, I would be suggesting anything that does morphing, and that includes the one, the Mazatron VC DCO. Remember, the digital are a bit cold, but I fucking use it all the time. And then, John, you haven't fucking shut your mouth off yet. I know you've got a lot to talk about on this. But yeah, and like, this is difficult because there's so many bloody oscillators out there. But because you're saying I want something that's kind of different. And another thing, look, another reason I love Doepfer is because there's a whole bunch of inputs. And most of those inputs have got attenuation knobs on them. So I can get my 110-2, which is stock standard, and I can run a really low-level VCO into it or noise and way turn the gain down so the even if it's on a sample and hold or something, so the pitch is ever so slightly warping around, and then take something else and wire that into the pulse width modulation, just so it's, because like, an analog voice card, really it's like this. That's what it's like. It's not like that.
Yeah.
And that's what's kind of a pain in the ass about so much of the modern modular stuff. Although it's analog, it's made with incredibly awesome parts, so it doesn't go squishy squish. And I actually, on a sideline, I have a mate who, oh God, the gear he owns, me and him have a theory that the reason like a 2600 sounds, or 2500 sounds like a 25 or a 26 or a System 100 or a System 700, the reason they sound like that is because modern circuit boards are cut with lasers. Old ones were acid bathed. And as a result, even within the circuit itself, there are inaccuracies, because if power is going from a strip from that to that, back to that, that's an area of heat. and all of those things will respond. Same with your fucking Moog. Crack open a genuine mini Moog. Look at the back of that thing, and you know, you'll see that there's so much room for stuff to go wrong, and you know, all of these things are creating. But anyway, I digress.
That's a big deal though, because like the original 808, the reason the original 808 sounds like it does was because they intentionally bought a lot of wonky chips that were like just under spec.
Yeah.
For something else. They basically they were able to just get a good deal on a bunch of chips that were cut for something else that didn't make it to the spec, and they spec'd it for what they needed for the Roland.
Yeah.
And that's why you can't find them anymore. And actually, it's a big deal in like the old guitar amps too, man. Like the hand-wired amps. If it doesn't have the original circuitry in there, the value of the thing is destroyed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because another thing you might be thinking about. Okay, thanks, John. Another thing you might want to be thinking about is, do you have a noise generator?
Yes.
Great. See, for example, you might take a noise generator, and you might come out of your dope for a VCO, and you're going to put your noise generator into a VCA, and you're going to take the dope and you're going to take that pitched bloody output, and you're going to run that into the signal, into the VCA input, the CV input. So that signal is going to be modulating the volume of the noise. As a result,
Right.
the noise is going to have pitch. The second thing you'll do is you'll set up your wasp filter to be a notch, a band pass. And that band pass is going to be following the pitch of that note. And you're going to run that the sound of that noise being cut off in time with an oscillator into that, which is going to be also tracking that, pinpointing out that frequency. Then you're going to put the whole thing into distortion. Luckily, I have the A132-4, and I can prep it up so that it will distort. And you'll start getting some really interesting sounds. There are other things you could get. For example, the dope for I'm selling dope for here. The A188 BBD bucket brigade delay. Say that when you're caffeinated. But you can actually, there's a form of synthesis that uses that, where whispers are shape noise. Very true. Thank you, John. Oh, thank you, Adam. You can use that as an oscillator. You have to dick around a bit. But the thing about Dopa is that so much of their input is based on volt per octave. So you can use the self-oscillating thing as an oscillator on your filter. So I haven't helped you at all. It's because I'm a bastard.
No, I'm sure you have.
You're only saying that because you're nice.
Right, yeah, because I'm nice.
Yeah. Does anybody else want to say? Adam, go.
Yeah, actually, of course I do, man. I just want to say about noise, the whispers are shaped noise thing. Like your mouth is an envelope. Noise is a super useful tool. You know, like getting the emotional lifts and drops that you can get, just you know, just shaping noise using that notch to sweep up and sweep down creates lift and flow and sweep. You know, panning noise, especially like gives a swinging feel back and forth. You can literally create word kind of sounds if you're really patient and sculpt your envelopes well. Because truly that's what we're doing with our mouth, is we just make noise with our breath and shape it with our lips and our mouths. So
yeah, awesome.
But I still have that question about how you manage your sounds, so to speak. How do you do it again?
I'll throw it around. I'm going to get to that. Alex,
Just shortly, if you have something in your mind and it's in your price range, I think from my experience, just go for it and go what your gut says, because I think there aren't really bad choices.
Except Behringer.
Yeah, it's built like shit and fuck them. Yeah, seriously, it's built like fucking shit and fuck them.
More of a budget.
Yeah. So what I want to do next is, thanks, Adam. And if anybody else of the modular or synth variety wants to chirp in, please do. The thing about modular synths is there is no, on my system at least, there's no memory. And you're absolutely right that every single tweak can change things so drastically. I'm not one of those people who records every single thing. People like that actually drive me insane. And what I will do is I'll get the sound that's working, and everything is slowly moving towards that point. And when you tweak this, you tweak that, and da-da-da-da-da. And then you turn it off and come back to it the next day, and often oscillators drift and filters drift. But it's all part of the mix, because I'm trying to embrace chaos more. And then once it's done, it's done. Yeah, I mean, like now also the kick and the clap and the hats are all modular as well. I use, I'm a big fan of the hex inverter stuff. So I will tweak and I will kind of pitch the kick drum because I can, to match what's going on. I'm not a big one for pitching kick drums because I don't care. And also, I know if it's out of tune, it's going to make tension, and I want tension. Yeah. Fuck off. Fuck off. Go back to Celine Dion, and I only say that because Reese Forber works for Celine Dion, and I have so much respect for that guy. Like, seriously. But anyway, if you do an EDM or whatever, sure, man, pitch your kick. You do that, but I don't want to. Sometimes I do.
Rock and roll, man. I pitched all my drums when I was playing in rock bands.
Should I mute you?
Yeah.
All right.
Actually, I had another question.
That's great. Hold on, where are you? You're right there.
I had another question.
Yeah, good. Well, I'm gonna finish, and then then I will jump back to it, because I want to then throw this open to everybody else. Man, I just threw you in the doghouse, and I'm sorry. I'm such a bastard. So that's. I try and shut up. I try and follow what Depeche Mode do, and that is, while you're working on the song on the modular, you don't touch the modular, and that's what's difficult. Is that because I jam with Ryan every week, I have to fucking get a move on. Like tomorrow, if I'm going to use this thing, I've got to use it now, because by the time I'm done with it, it's going to be Friday, and I have to make decisions and da-da-da, bang. That's what's hard about modular synths. But, maybe that's really easy, because what you want to do is go for something really fast. And also, another problem I have is that everything I do to my ear always comes up sounding the same. It always sounds like Carl did this. And I try really hard to get away from that. And often it's don't use so much stuff to create this sound. One oscillator, one filter, one VCA. Keep it simple. I'm done. I'll shut up now.
Well, my next question, actually, you hit it. You pretty well hit it there. My next question was, do you literally have to finish working on a song before you work on the next instrument, or do you have to literally finish the whole layer that you're going to use in a song before you create another layer? Or do you have enough junk there to be working on many layers at the same time? Or
I have enough.
I know drums is one thing, but
I have enough junk. But that brings into it another really interesting thing between all the samplers and everything else that's going on. But I have to be really careful of the amount of crap that's going on. And it's so easy with a modular synth to go, oh, put in this bit, blip, 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 blip. Oh, this song isn't working. I'll put in this, blip, 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 blip. And before you know it, you've got a whole song full of blip, 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 and no motherfucking riff. And no real serious context. And that's, I always fall into that thing, which is why I've gone back to wall of sound, John. That's totally right. And then you have to sculpt all that crap out. That's why, coming right back to your original question, Julius, that's why I spend so much time in the actual composition stage, because what's the bass doing? What are the chords doing? Does this evoke a feeling? Because blip, 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 blip doesn't, or usually it doesn't. My job as a composer is to evoke an emotion, an emotional response. And that might be anger, it might be anger, or it might be anger, or disgust.
Or anger.
Oh, yes. I mean, sometimes I'll go with anger. But anyway, I'm lucky to have enough crap that, if it's already set up, I'll go, I'll keep that oscillator and that filter, free. But I'll go back to one of the best albums I've done that I did all alone in a little bloody apartment in Berlin, which is Blood, Death, Ivory. And I had 2 racks of Dope. And I did that whole album on minimal gear. And it's really strong. Everything's about it was strong. And the people go, I want to get all this shit. And as soon as you got all this shit, it just starts overloading your brain. If you've got minimal stuff, how can I use this inventively? Necessity is the mother of necessity and invention. And they got together and they made something called Inventicity or something. So, and 2 thumbs up from Adam. And I'm getting a smile from Alex. Alex, go. Floor's yours.
Sometimes if I'm feeling down and uncreative, I watch your old writing logs you did on your YouTube channel, like in potato quality, but they always like inspire me because you're like, I don't know, in the midst of it, and it's like evokes the spirit of being creative.
Cool, thank you. That's
I'm going to add to that and say that a lot of times the best stuff, or the stuff that I'm proudest of, it might not even be the best stuff, but the stuff that I'm proudest of is the stuff that is most hard won. It's like that, like coming up with a solution that is not the right way to do something and making it work is super satisfying.
Oh my God. Can I, and please, if you want to jump in, just jump in. Look, that is really important as well. That the more you get to know about modular synthesis, the more you fall into habits. Whereas if you're staring at a wall and you have no idea what you're doing, and you have this freedom of thing, and you only realize that you were free in hindsight. I had no idea what I was doing. Oh, wow. Who would have thought about sticking a drum beat into there, and sticking that into an oscillator? Who would have thought?
Jump-in story just about that freedom. A photographer whose work is unbelievably high quality. I mean, this guy is one of those, like, nobody can afford him dudes, right? And I read an interview with him once, and he said, I miss the days when I could just grab a model and run off into the woods with a camera and take pictures. Because now everything I do has to be so perfectly polished that I spend 100 hours on an image making it for this magazine or whatever. And he says, and I spend all my time doing fucking digital design work, and I used to be a photographer.
Yeah. Yeah. So is that paralysis? What was it? I have something paralysis, choice paralysis.
Anal paralysis.
Yeah, fuck all of you.
You have anal paralysis.
Anal paralysis.
Choice paralysis.
Thanks, John. It's anal paralysis to you, buddy. And there is a cream you can get for that. It's called Yarowaski. I just thought of the ad. Oh, I'm getting a visual. Oh, I'm getting a visual. Oh, I'm getting a visual there.
Make it.
My ass?
Yeah, and the application thereof. Which reminds me of a
shit
story.
On MTV TV, man. We'll air that crap. You make it, we'll air
That
it.
reminds me of a story that I'll tell you at some other point. So And that's so true. Is that the more you know, the more you're bound to. Jesus Christ. And that's why, for me, what I am trying to get out of these things is how do I stop the process? You know?
How do you start the process?
No, stop it. How do you break out of the... And it was a rhetorical question. But, yeah. Unless anybody...
Do something radically different, man. Like, do a different project.
Yes. Yeah, actually, that's actually really good. Because something that I'm playing around with at the moment, oh my God, I'm pimping dope for again, is I have the A155 sequencer. Randall, you don't need it. You have that fucking thing that I sent you, that joystick controller.
Yeah, this thing.
It's a whole bunch of chaos. Look at it. That's good job, mate. Thank you again. Utilize that thing. And the thing about that sequencer controller is I can, using control voltages, I can change it from 8 to 3 to 6. I can change the length. I can change the direction of it. I can do all that stuff. So sending a random voltage into it every bar. So, okay, now you're only playing 7 steps. Oh, now it's 5 steps. Back to 8 steps. All of that sort of thing it's great. And I have been experimenting with that, but I don't know. Alex, take it.
It might be a stupid idea, but maybe something that I would do in the situation is numbering all my modules and then randomly drawing 5 and using them.
That's a great idea. That's a really good idea. I approve of that. Spoken and authorized by Alex. I like it. Go, Brett.
One thing that I do, but it allows. I'll grab real world sounds. So you'll hear it in this one. You'll also hear it in other things. I may play them backwards or something like that just to make them extra creepy. But it's a method of adding that chaos to a mix while also building an environment versus taking the approach of how do you reinvent the wheel or whatever each time. What I kind of took it from, how do I bring that element of chaos to what I'm doing when I need it.
I had another thought on how to shake up your creativity, and not get too accustomed to the stuff that you have, is try using the thing that you usually use for this thing to do something else. So if you usually use this for a lead, see if you can turn it into a rhythm, or like a rhythmic arpeggiation or a bass line or something like that, where you're like, normally I wouldn't do this, but let's see how it sounds. I was thinking about your square wave generator. I was like, some of the best house music bass lines in the garage days, right? The garage days, were those beautiful square, and like they just like dong 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 dong, fucking hot stuff, and it just it's really punchy. And so like that's a cool thing to like, like instead of using it for, like, well, I don't know, something else, like instead of using it for a VCA, which you would normally use it for, use it or as a gate or something, like use it just to make a bass line that plucks over your other lines and see what you can do with it. Like the idea being like, so when I did Skeleton Closet, right, I ended up rewriting some earlier sequences with different instruments because I wanted to have the consistency of the instruments that I was using across the album. Like some, they kind of appear, and but every time that I was using something, I didn't want to use the same in this song that I do in this song, so like this instrument that takes the longer pattier leads in one is like the synth in another one. I'm done.
All right, thank you. I'm going to throw it to John, and then I want to ask about SoundCloud. John, tell us what's on your mind.
Yeah, just wanted to say field recorders are actually super useful for coming up with unique sounds. This is a Tascam, but like there are many others like it. Yeah, it's like I like this particular one because it starts up really fast, and you can do DI in addition to the microphones on top. But point being is like Maman Tobin is another artist who does a lot of work with field recordings, and part of it is just like kind of getting yourself out of the habit of like turning to the tools that you have and treating the world as your instrument. And so I last night was listening to a breakdown of someone who kind of reverse engineered Mick Gordon's sound from Doom. The Doom soundtracks, Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal, in which it has kind of like this, you can kind of like characterize it as almost like Dijen influenced, but like the way that he was doing it was a combination of synthesizers, obviously just distorted guitars, but throwing in there for part of like the buzzy sound is literally a chainsaw. And then using a multi-band compressor and compressing the hell out of it. And so it's like, it's like what gives it that extra edge is that real world sound that is thrown in there, because it's like guitars can sound like guitars. You can throw a bunch of effects on it. You can change the chain. It's like at the end of the day, it's still a guitar. But if it's a guitar plus a chainsaw, that's different. What are you going to do to just throw something in there that is going to give it that extra flavor?
Thank you, John. That's bloody awesome. I saw someone else's hand up, and it wasn't you, Adam. Whose hand was up? All right, Adam, take it. I'm such a bastard.
I need
I'm
myself
sorry.
one of those field recorders. So on the field recording thing, like the iPhones are pretty useful for that too. Probably not nearly as good as like a Zoom or a Tascam there. They're not too far from Diana's, a couple hours south of Diana along the Delaware River, not far from Easton, Pennsylvania, where the Crayola factory is. There is a boulder park, and it's called the Ringing Rocks, and they are really unusual because you can hit them with a hammer and they ring out like bells, and some of them have these beautiful tones. Some of them are kind of flat, some of them have these beautiful ringing tones. And I have been dying to. At one point I went down there with my mom and I was hanging out hitting rocks with a hammer, and I used my iPhone because it was just what I had in my pocket at the time. It was like my 5, I guess it was. And I did take some recordings, but it would be great to get some nice isolated, not have to go through the whole like denoising and losing some of the frequencies thing. But it's a super cool spot. It's just one of those like if anybody wants to mess around with the recordings that I do have and try to make something out of it, it's really neat.
Thank you, Adam. Firstly, there was a really excellent gateway for some your mom jokes in there. Hitting rocks with your mom. Maybe
my
not.
Mom wears combat boots, yo.
Yeah,
Watch out
right.
for my mom.
Secondly, I want to say that I had the honor of doing the Stigmata, one of the Stigmata remixes for Ministry, and I got to see their tracks. And I'm sworn not to let anyone see those tracks. But what I will say is, those amazing guitars in Stigmata? They're not guitars. They're all, right? They're all crappy samples that were done in the late 80s, early 90s. None of them are guitars. They're all distorted fucking Mirage and synthesizers. So good one, Al and Mr. Baker. Secondly, and then after I finish my thing, I'm going to throw it to a question. I am important. One of my things is I haven't gone on a sound safari since I've been in lockdown, because I've also got one of those recording things, and I've got a pop guard for it and everything. And going out and recording sounds like, specifically today, I'm going to go out and I'm going to record stuff. I used to go on trains, which I don't do anymore, and all of this other stuff, and record. And I did that with my mate Bryce once, who's a fucking legend. And we went to a junkyard and we recorded all this random stuff. And yeah, it was great. And I scraped all that and cleaned it up, and excuse me for belching. So go on Sound for Safaris if you can, because they're bloody awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, yes, I would like to bring up a question. This week from SoundCloud, I received an email about their fair royalty distribution. And John, I'm looking at you right now.
Yeah, got the same email. There's also they're having like a free kind of like artist session, which sounds like kind of like a Q&A, and also them talking about it, which it sounds interesting, but also it sounded like they were being super pushy on it, which I mean, I was trying to figure out, it's like, is this promotion or is this lobbying? And but like, I'm glad we're talking about this.
Yeah. So what I want to do is, if you want to jump in, I want facts. I don't have any facts because I don't understand it. I see you, Adam. I don't understand is, you can get this if you pay $10 a month. Because from what I was reading, that's what it looked like. And I'm really tired of organizations that are ripping off musicians. For example, Twitch, it's a scam, guys. Yes, it is. If you want to make money, get on Patreon. Anyway, so I want to talk about SoundCloud. I want to fucking talk about Twitch. So if you have facts about what is going on with this, can somebody shed some light on this? Facts, please, go.
Okay. I saw you like, because you see my face twisting over here. I am so ready to talk about this.
I'm looking forward to your researched facts.
It is.
Adam.
Oh no, it is all. No, I'm going to tell you what's going on. I'm not going to interject an opinion on it, except to say that perhaps I think that John's right in that it's largely lobbying, and I'm just going to kind of leave off my opinion on that. So the thing that it is supposed to be is a fair royalty distribution based on what listeners are actually listening to, as opposed to the normal royalty fee structures, which are the algorithmic ASCAP kind of style stuff, which means that the lion's share always gets paid to the primary artists, and the smaller artists don't even get counted because their amount of plays don't even make the thresholds, and or whatever reason it is. So the idea behind what SoundCloud is promoting is that as a SoundCloud artist, you will actually get royalties for the listens that people participate in as your listeners. That said, if you are not in their premium system, it does not apply to you. If you are pro, so there are several different, this is part of it too, is that there are several different scales. So there's like the one that I'm on is like your kind of pro, it's like the $8 one, and then there's like the pro premium, which is $12, and then there's their premier service, which I don't even know how much that is. So and then there are also things that there are to achieve those levels, like to be the premier kind of thing, it's like you have to be tall enough to ride the ride, so it kind of defeats the purpose of, anyway. So the question is going to be like, okay, so if I am a premium artist and it's already costing me $8 a month just to have it there for free for the 20 people a day or whatever, the 20 plays a day that I get, and just to have it there, so it's there, right, so that I can give it away for free, and I can have links to the others, like, you can get it here, but you can listen to it for free. So what I'm not sure about is if it applies only to SoundCloud premium users. So it's like, you know, if you're not subscribed to the SoundCloud application thing with an account and that kind of stuff. So if you're a casual listener clicking through SoundCloud, like most people have been for the entire existence of SoundCloud, you know, it's kind of like they're really late in the game to be, you know, Spotify, you know. The other thing is that, okay, so when to segue from the Spotify thing, the Spotify and YouTube and all that kind of royalty system, like Spotify gets a piece of your royalty, you know, they get 30% of your royalty. Here's the thing, SoundCloud's going to take 45% of your royalty. So those are the facts as I understand them, that it's supposed to be a fan-powered royalty system. But you have to be tall enough to ride the ride, and you have to be subscribed enough to ride the ride. The ticket price is higher. And if you are paying the lower ticket price, then you are in the same old bracket that you were before. Right? It literally nothing changes unless you're in this. There are a few different level. I'm trying to find the different levels, and you know, it's kind of too much to skim. But there are like 3 different premium levels even, and like all of this stuff is fairly new. You know, they've been kind of rolling out little bits and little bits and little bits. Oh, okay, so it's the basic program is free, and then you have the pro program, which is the $8 one, and then you have the pro unlimited, which is the $12 one, right? And then, if you're on any of those, you're still on the old pro rata system. So one of the numbers that's quoted, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this Vice article here.
And John, I see your hand. Go ahead, Adam. I'm sorry.
I'm grabbing this Vice article and I'm going to throw it over into the chat here. Bam. Because I while I've been talking, I was Googling to try to find the different things, and I found this great article that literally says everything that I was saying. And yeah, there it says here that there are about 100,000 musicians in the 3 programs, which are SoundCloud Premier, Repost, and Repost Select. Those last 2 require artists to use SoundCloud as their distributor. And it says that represents roughly 20% of all the musicians on SoundCloud.
Right.
So there's a bunch of information for you to process and form your own opinions about whether or not it's fucking bullshit.
Yeah. I'm going to just throw this over to John. I'd love to hear your thoughts, John.
I'm not going to present thoughts. I'm going to present facts. So,
beautiful.
So like, if you want in on this, it's like to monetize with SoundCloud Premier. It's like you must be an independent creator, own all the rights. You must own 100% of the rights. No mixes or podcast content. You must have 0 copyright strikes at the time you enroll. That's pretty straightforward. You must be a SoundCloud Pro or Pro Unlimited subscriber. You must have at least 500 eligible streams in the past month. I just checked, I'm at 264. So it's like, okay, well, there are ways to get that up, but like legitimately, but it's, but you basically, it's like you need a hustle and you need an audience. The monetization streams need to come from a list of countries, and it's a pretty short list, like US, UK, Canada, Australia, France, Germany, Ireland, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Spain, Switzerland, Portugal, Belgium, Italy, Austria, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Finland, and any other territories. But that's like,
first world white people.
Yeah, it's not everything. Humans are listening to your tracks. Bot streams will not be counted. So yeah. There's a list of countries that are explicitly not supported, which is interesting. Which also Cuba, apparently. And Antarctica doesn't count for reasons. I know. Scientists, you know,
And they're close to New Zealand.
New Zealand.
Antarctica can't get it.
It's not explicitly listed. But point
Right,
being,
exactly.
there is a, you know, it's a bar. Not everybody is at that bar. I'm not at that bar.
I'm not at that bar.
Yeah, it's I think I can get myself to that bar if I participate in like the Disquiet Juntos, because honestly, like the ambient music that I make for that, like it's like 100 listens like a week, you know, every time I do that, at least, you know, stuff like that. It's like, you know, creating content, but creating content and an audience, you know, having a built-in audience, like right there, that's gotta, yeah. Like Julius just mentioned like using it to host unlisted demo songs. Yeah, like I have probably like 2 albums worth of content that are there for like games that I'm working on that are unpublished, you know, so it's just like it's sitting there, even though it's like this is content that I wish people could listen to, but there it is.
Excellent. Thank you. Does anybody else have informed, factually based things that they'd like to add to this very angry topic? Okay. The second piece of interestingness, thank you. That was what I feared it was, which was basically, as Frank Zappa once said, the way to make money out of music is to make it out of the suckers who think they're going to make money out of music. Thank you, Frank Zappa. Basically, you pay $10 a month and we'll give you 30 cents in royalties, but that's more than Spotify pays, so we're the good guys here. I also want to talk about Bandcamp streaming, which I think is only available if you pay your monthly Bandcamp fees. There's Dean Freud, as we're about to end. Or we don't have to talk about Bandcamp. Dean Freud, welcome. I'm actually about to wrap this up, but because I like to wrap it up around about 12 here. Yeah, so it looks like Bandcamp streaming is going to be you have to be a subscribed Bandcamp person, from my understanding as well. But I will say that I don't know OBS's connectivity. I'm sure it will have connectivity with Bandcamp, but streaming onto Twitch is like, that road's getting some traffic jams, I'll say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, does anybody have any closing questions that aren't huge, gigantic things? John, I see your beautiful finger in the air.
So it's better than other places. Like your mom. Can I run a live stream on Bandcamp using OBS? We recommend streaming on Bandcamp via OBS. Done.
Great. Because I haven't seen the Bandcamp thing, but I'm sure the streaming information will be there. John, you're such a tech guy. I love your face. Yeah.
Only thing I wanted to do as a last shout out is I threw my latest up in Discord. I certainly appreciate any constructive critiques, whatever, before I throw it off to mastering, etc.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah. So everybody keep an eye on that Discord, as I really should. So yeah, that's great. And please use that Discord as a place of like community hangout and making cool shit. Anybody else with any last minute fantasticnesses before we raid to MTV TV?
That's it.
Fuck, I'm too late.
Get it? You just jump in next week. Because we start at 10 o'clock LA time, which I think is 8 o'clock.
Oh, man, he's a week early.
Yeah, there you go. I don't know. What time do we start? Because 5 Shades of Suck here. Saturday, Sunday. I've got it down at 6, so it would be 7 p.m. in Germany?
Yep.
It's getting on to 9 p.m. now. I'm sorry. I'm an awful man. It's true. Yeah, so any last-minute questions? Now's your chance. It's time to raid to MTV TV. It's time to raid to MTV TV. And I'm going to turn this thing off while everybody raids. Or maybe I'll leave it on and everyone raids. You raiding him, Diana? all gonna rage MTV TV. And
Well,
if you're a
how
musician, send
convenient.
your goddamn music to MTV TV because they want to play your videos.
Yes, and as a matter of fact, there's an Angel Spit live set on right now.
Oh my
and it's
God.
about halfway through. And it would be from the video release party from February.
Excellent.
Yes, so you're gonna see the video at the end of that one, and that was the super creepy, wonderful. Oh, that has rapidly become. That video is a movie,
Which one?
and it's a beautiful short movie.
All
No
puppet.
master, all puppet,
Great.
no master.
Oh, awesome.
Like which video is it? It's the one we did in February, Carl. Don't you remember?
Did I release that in February?
That was the February video.
No, yeah, but I'm releasing one every week. I don't think we had a show for that. I think we did.
Wasn't that the show? Oh, maybe. Oh, actually, yeah, that was maybe which one was this one?
I don't remember.
Oh no, this was the one that the liar did.
Yeah, this was Hot Machine.
Yeah. So yes. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Yeah, it's about 15 more minutes left on that show. So there's a number of fucking rippers to hear yet, and then of course it will. I believe after that it kicks back into the virtual temple special and back to the top. And of course we're working on the new shows. So Carl, we need to grab you at some point anyway for a little side chat.
We could do that after this.
Okay, sounds good.
Excellent.
I'm here.
Diana, have we hit the magic ray button? All right. I'm gonna stop the streaming. Everybody wave like it's the Brady Bunch. This time next week, kids. Bye.